Every globalist mouthpiece jumped on Donald Trump's social media post about Ukraine somehow taking back its territory and winning the war, and portrayed it as a complete change in his policies. The British press, of course, led the pack, with the Daily Express exulting. Donald Trump makes a screeching U-turn on Ukraine territory concessions. Win it all back. But here's what they don't want you thinking about: what he did at the UN earlier in the day. Trump's UN speech was nothing short of an outright declaration of war against the specific ideologies and institutions which have undermined nations and human progress for the past 8 decades. Marco Rubio previewed what Trump did at the UN.
Apparently, the president wants his famous message of peace through strength today at the UN. What do you anticipate him saying?
Well, I think one of the things the president's going to have to address and is going to address is the UN itself. And that is, why do we still have a UN? It has tremendous potential. The UN is an organization that has the potential to do some great things around the world, but it's not doing it.
And when Trump delivered on that in his speech, he doubled down on the 2 policies that the UN has championed: support for unfettered immigration and the green policies.
In closing, I just want to repeat that immigration and the high cost of so-called green renewable energy is destroying a large part of the free world and a large part of our planet. Countries that cherish freedom are fading fast because of their policies on these 2 subjects. You need strong borders and traditional energy sources if you are going to be great again.
Trump made crystal clear that these policies are pushed by people with evil intentions, and that those evil intentions have taken over institutions. It reminded me of Pope John Paul II's remarkable 1987 encyclical, Solicitudo Rei Socialis, where the Holy Father spoke of structures of sin. He said one can speak of structures of sin. They are rooted in personal sin, and thus are always linked to concrete acts of individuals who introduce these structures, consolidate them, and make them difficult to remove. And thus they grow stronger, spread, and become the source of other sins, and so influence people's behavior. I think this is a very important concept. Yes, there is personal sin, but creating structures which perpetuate sinful ideologies is what we are up against. These are ideologies which deny the very nature of man as created in the image of God. And this is what Trump is in combat with. Trump's UN speech comes on the heels of the extraordinary memorial for Charlie Kirk on Sunday, where speaker after speaker made clear that the battle is indeed between good and evil. Trump's UN speech took that battle to the next level. I'm Susan Kokinda, and I've been exposing the anti-human roots of the empire's environmentalist movement for decades, showing that its underlying ideology is contrary to everything Western civilization stands for, and how it's been used to try and destroy the United States and other nations. If you find value in our in-depth analysis of the real fight, not the ones the headlines give you, please like and subscribe. So today I'm going to show you 3 crucial points. First, what's really going on with Trump's foreign policy. Second, how he's taking dead aim at the empire's institutions of evil. And third, the renaissance of builders that's emerging from this battle. So let me show you Trump's recent post on Ukraine that has many of his supporters wondering if he's fallen into the hands of the neocons. Here's the key quote. I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed the idea of Ukraine taking back its territory as a flawed talking point and pointed out that the reality at the front line speaks volumes. But here's what happened a little earlier. Trump met with Zelensky. He had a very short press availability in which only Zelensky made opening remarks. When Trump was asked by a reporter, Mr. President, any update on your talks with President Putin? And do you still trust him? Trump said, I'll let you know in about a month. In addition, TASS had a very interesting report about what also happened at the UN yesterday. They reported the United States has stopped short of joining Ukraine and Europe and the European Union's statement condemning Russia. The statement was read out by Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiga. A total of 38 countries joined it, including Slovakia. Moreover, Sybiga's speech was not attended by any official from Donald Trump's administration or from the permanent mission to the UN. So let's go back to Trump's post. When he said that Ukraine could win with time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, he knows that those factors don't exist. Earlier in the day, he said that European countries are going to hell because of green policies and mass immigration. Even The Guardian, which I think exists primarily to attack Donald Trump, carried a headline, "Trump's change in tone is valuable to Ukraine, but more than words are needed." Undoubtedly, Trump is frustrated, but he's constantly developing unexpected new flanks, trying to create space for genuine diplomacy while the globalists continue their endless war drives. We've seen him throw verbal hand grenades into a diplomatic impasse before. But let's look at another important aspect of U.S.-Russian relations. Vladimir Putin recently offered to extend the START treaty by 1 year, pushing it into 2027. Putin said, "In order to prevent the emergence of a new strategic arms race and to preserve an acceptable degree of predictability and restraint, we consider it reasonable to maintain at this turbulent time the status quo established under New START." Trump hasn't directly responded to that, but in his UN speech, he repeated his lifelong desire to eliminate nuclear weapons completely. And it was in that UN speech where Trump really went for the jugular. He didn't just critique policies. He declared these institutions fundamentally evil and exposed the people pushing them. First, he savaged the UN itself.
Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the number one political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out.
But then Trump went deeper, declaring any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about. Then came his devastating attack on the Green Agenda hoax. Trump reminded everyone that back in 1982, the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe, irreversible as a nuclear holocaust would be. What happened? Here we are. And here's the knockout punch. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. He called it a con job, and he described how Europe has destroyed itself. It's important that Trump named the UN Environmental Program by name, because when you look at its origins, you do see unabashed evil. The UNEP was first headed by Canadian Maurice Strong, who was a key figure in the intersection between the Green Agenda, the World Economic Forum, and the population control eugenics movement. Like fellow environmentalist Prince Philip, who wished that he could come back as a deadly virus to help solve overpopulation, Strong had no problem declaring his real intentions. He said, "If we don't change, our species will not survive. Frankly, we may get to the point where the only way of saving the world will be for industrial civilization to collapse." Not only that, Strong, like so many of the world's would-be elite, recognized that populations don't willingly march to their own destruction. And he suggested, our concepts of ballot box democracy may need to be modified to produce strong governments capable of making difficult decisions, particularly in terms of safeguarding the global environment that this transition will require. The destruction of modern industrial civilization and fascist political methods are indeed what we have been up against, and what Donald Trump and his movement are challenging. Promethean Action organizers have been exposing and fighting this for decades. And if you want to be part of this and equip yourself with the strategic background and the historical depth, then subscribe to our free newsletter or become a paying member and help us build the movement that can back President Trump up in this titanic fight. Because here's what the globalists truly fear: that Trump is unleashing the creative power of human beings as city builders and creators. As Stephen Miller powerfully said at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, this battle is about good versus evil. But he gave powerful content to the idea of the good, that it can be found in those who are the city builders, in the producers and the creators.
Our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. You are nothing. You are wickedness. You are jealousy. You are envy. You are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. And we will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes for which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion. You cannot defeat us. You cannot slow us. You cannot stop us. You cannot deter us. We will carry Charlie and Erica in our heart every single day and fight that much harder because of what you did to us. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic.
Now think back to Pope John Paul II's idea of structures of sin, and then think about how the institutions of Western civilization, Christianity, and our republic are actually structures of goodness. Trump understands this at his core. Remember Trump's speech at Davos back in 2020, when he spoke with optimism about building civilization, about human creativity and technological progress. That wasn't just rhetoric. That was a declaration of what America represents. And Trump stressed it again at the conclusion of his UN speech, inviting the world to celebrate America's upcoming 250th birthday. The empire's institutions want to convince people that they're just consumers, that they're destroying the planet by existing, that they should feel guilty for human progress. But Trump is saying the opposite, that human beings are meant to build, to create, to push the boundaries of what's possible. Trump's UN speech wasn't just another political statement. It was a fundamental exposure of the battle lines that define our time. He showed at the UN the environmental movement, the globalist migration agenda aren't just misguided policies, but evil systems designed to undermine human progress and national sovereignty. If you put President Trump's UN speech next to all of the remarkable memorials to Charlie Kirk last Sunday, you see that the structures of sin are indeed being challenged by the renaissance of Western civilization. That's why your support matters. Subscribe and stay informed as this battle unfolds, because understanding these deeper dynamics is crucial if we're going to fully implement Trump's vision. The renaissance of the builders has begun, and the institutions of evil are running scared. So stay focused, stay mobilized, and thanks for watching.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com.